This is episode 72 of my author's diary. I am an author of crime thrillers for women, and every week I take you through the ups and downs that I go through as I try to write and publish new books. So don't forget to subscribe or follow me so you won't miss when I'm doing a video. This week is the last week of Preptober for NaNoWriMo. Am I ready? But I will get to that in just a second. The first thing I want to tell everybody out there, and it's one of the most important things that you could ever do if you are planning to write for NaNoWriMo. The most hands down important thing to do, this is something that I did last year, and I actually just did it about an hour ago. The most important thing to do is order your winter t-shirt. NaNoWriMo will send you an email that says, hey, pre-order your NaNoWriMo 2020 winter t-shirt. You need to get that shirt. That shirt is the ultimate motivation for you to keep on pressing on in November and make sure you get your 50,000 words written. Because think about it. How bad will you feel when the mailman drops off that t-shirt and you looking at your NaNoWriMo page and it don't say 50,000 and you feel like a fraud? You're not gonna let that happen. So order that t-shirt, and that is the ultimate motivation to know that your winner's t-shirt is coming. You already are putting yourself in that winner's mentality because you know you got a winner's t-shirt coming, and you just know that, like, there's no way I'm not going to write my 50,000 words. Most important. Okay, now let's get to Preptober for me. Last time we talked about Preptober, which I think was about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I was trying to figure out what would I even write for NaNoWriMo. Here were my list of ideas of things that I could write for Preptober. As you can see, I put the little red X like, no way I'll be able to write The Unexpected Hero, which is book 4 of the Hero in Paradise series. It is the last book of the series, right? Because at that time, my manuscript for The Fallen Hero, book 3, was still with the editor, and I had no clue what the editor was gonna come back with, right? As I told y'all last week, it was all good. I have already cleared all the editor's comments. Now we're moving into proofreading and kind of just the copy editing, checking for comments and all that kind of stuff. The easy part of editing, right? And so now that I know that that story is solidified, I actually can move into book 4 during NaNoWriMo. So even though this had an X in it, but when I was thinking about the ideas, now this has become the winner. So that's what I'm writing for NaNoWriMo. I've already gone out there to the NaNoWriMo website and put in, here's the project that I'm working on for 2020. It is The Unexpected Hero, book 4 in the Hero in Paradise series. But before I get into how is my plotting of The Unexpected Hero been going, let me first give you a peek behind the curtains of my plotting process, and it starts with my tools for keeping me grounded in story structure. Now, I know you hear authors talking about all the time understanding story structure, understanding tropes, and understanding genres and things of that nature. And I have 2 go-to guides that I use to help keep me grounded in story structure. The most important one that I use all the time, and it really keeps me grounded, it is the foundation of how I plot my stories. It is a book by K.M. Whalen, and it's called Structuring Your Novel. So this is my go-to guide. Everything, this is the foundation. This is what I lay down first before I apply anything else. It is the book that helped me to understand the act structure and how to really pace out your story. It is such a phenomenal book. And then the next book, and I know I'm hiding my books behind me, right? It's in this arm. So the next book that I layer on top of all of the foundation that K.M. Whalen gave me is a book called Story Grid by Sean Coyne. Now this book I layer on top of the principles that K.M. Whalen has helped to teach me, and the combination of the guidance in the K.M. Whalen book layered on with the Story Grid book is how I plot my novels. Then the next thing you need are good writing software tools, and I have 2 that I am relying upon. One is brand new and one is my old favorite that I could not live without. So the old favorite that I cannot live without is Scrivener. I write everything in Scrivener, everything all the way up to what I hand over to the editor, it is written in Scrivener. The beauty about Scrivener is that it has so many different tools and tips and techniques and things that you can use to help you organize your writing in a way that works for you. And because of that flexibility, I just truly love Scrivener. Now, the thing that I've added to my repertoire for 2020 is a software called Plotter. Now, Plotter allows me to outline my novel in a timeline fashion, and it is brilliant. And I can export my outline from Plotter into Scrivener. Win-win situation, y'all. Okay, so those are the tools that I start with when I'm trying to plot my stories. Now, let's get into the sausage making. So when I'm plotting my stories, I do it off of the act structure. So it's a 3-act structure, but it's really, for me, it's a 4-act structure because the middle part of the acts, K.M. Whalen breaks down into an Act 2A and an Act 2B. So I always start with Act 1, Act 2A, Act 2B, and Act 3. Okay? Now, in the story grid format, Act 2A and Act 2B all come together and they're called the middle wheel. But for my purposes, I keep K.M. Whalen's terminology and I call it Act 2A and Act 2B. Now, for each one of these, there are moments, critical story structure moments that you're building up to, and I call those my tent poles. So I know when I start my book, I have to go to my first tent pole, and then I have to make things happen to get to the second tent pole, and that's where I consider the end of each one of these acts, right? And so Act 1 should get you to your inciting incident. Act 2A gets you to your point of no return. Act 2B gets you to your all is lost moment. And Act 3 is the resolution. And squeezed it in. And that writing looks so tiny. I hope that comes out. So really I'm starting my story, I'm trying to work up to an inciting incident. This is the thing that catapults your characters into dealing with whatever the situation is. Because before then, they're living a normal life, they're happy, they're fine, they're doing what they want to do. And then they hit this one event and it's like, psh, it changes their life and it catapults them into something that they didn't think that they would actually be in. Then, once they realize, okay, they got to deal with this situation, they don't really want to deal with it. So they kind of just react into it, like, I don't really want to deal with this, but I'm kind of dealing with it, but I don't really want to deal with this, until they hit this point of no return. The point of no return is when they're like, you know what? All right, now I'm about to roll up my sleeves and deal with this. That's what your point of no return is. They're rolling up their sleeves, they're like, I'm about to tackle this, I'm about to deal with this. And so once you hit your point of no return, now you're battling. And everything, things are happening. The protagonist is really, like the hero is really trying to like take charge, but stuff just keeps going wrong until you hit this all is lost moment where you really feel like, you know, he can get out of this. He's just not gonna get out of it. Like they're not gonna survive, they're not gonna, overcome. Everything has gone wrong, and then this moment is like a huge letdown where they feel demoralized and deflated, where they don't even know what to do next, right? And so then you dig them up out of the ashes, you pick them up off the ground and say, you know what? Shake yourself off, come up with a new plan. The new plan works. They tackle whatever they were dealing with, and then you get to a happy resolution for your story. So that's the way I tell my stories, is based off of what K.M. Whalen presents in her book, Structuring Your Novel, and it's something that has truly worked for me and helped to ground my stories. Where it gets complicated for me is that I write in a genre mashup. I'm pulling together romance and suspense all in the same novel. And I feel like every romantic suspense author has to basically make a choice when they're writing their stories on whether the main plot is going to be romance focused or if the main plot is going to be suspense focused. And I know if you read, like you Google, what is romantic suspense, they say it's 50-50, it's 50-50. From my experience, and probably maybe it's just because I'm not experienced enough as an author yet, but I find that it's very hard to keep each of them equal 50-50 throughout the whole book. And so what I had to determine is, okay, which one really appeals to me, which one do I like writing more? And I like to write the suspense more. So My books will always be a little bit heavier on suspense than they are on romance. And my main plot line that I'm following through the whole book is gonna be the suspense plot line. Other authors who write romantic suspense will make the romance the main plot line, where the suspense elements are light or they're the subplot. But I choose to make the suspense part my main plot, where the romance kind of takes a little bit of a backseat. Not too much of a backseat, where it doesn't feel like it's romantic suspense, but it does take a little bit of a backseat from being the main focus of the plot. Okay, so when I started plotting The Unexpected Hero, I was rolling, y'all. I had all of these ideas. I was rolling, putting all my scenes in, and I basically worked all the way from the beginning of the book all the way through to my all is lost moment to the end of Act 2B. And I said, well, wait a minute. And of course, that's me working with Cam Whalen's type of foundational structure that I use. And I said, well, wait a minute, let me double check some stuff. Let me make sure this is all flowing good. And that's when I applied Story Grid on top of it. And Story Grid basically has 5 different scenes. They call them core scenes that need to be in every unit of writing. And so what I try to do is make sure that I see the 5 scenes, those 5 key scenes in each one of my acts. And so it's inciting incident, progressive turning point complication, the crisis where someone has to make a choice and it's a tough choice to make. Climax is what choice did that person make, and then the resolution, right? And so I'm writing a suspense novel, so everything really has to be grounded in putting people in life or death situations where somebody's life is on the line or somebody has died or something like that. And so that's why I look at when I go to assess, okay, have I done what I need to do? Do I have all of my 5 core scenes for each one of my acts? And are they linked to that life or death is on the line type of feeling in each one of those scenes? And so I started trying to do that. And I had slipped into romance, y'all. It was all about the romance and the relationship issues with Julian and Nina and stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, that's good. That's not terrible. But this is the last book in the series. This is where they have the showdown with the ultimate villain who has been trying to wreak havoc in their lives for the past 3 books, and the chick hasn't even shown up. And I'm like, that ain't right. So then I had to start scrapping stuff. I went back to the basics. I really started to ground myself again, because again, I just started throwing out my ideas before grounding myself in the basics. So I had to go back and ground myself in the basics and really say, okay, how do I pull in this diabolical villain now who needs to be vanquished by the end of this book? Because this is the last book in the series. So now that I've gone and revisited the story, I had to say, okay, well, let me see, 1, do I have those 5 core scenes, but also is my main plot line suspense focused? And where you hit the golden card is if you can make your main plot line be both romance and suspense, right? So in the first part, in the inciting incident, I feel like I nailed romance and suspense. I'm just gonna use R and S. So this gives me R and S. My point of no return is an R and an S too. Yeah, I'm doing good. R and S. And then the moment that I have for all of loss is really just a suspense moment. It doesn't really deal with Julian and Nina as a couple. And then the resolution ends up being a romance and a suspense. So that's pretty good so far, right? Now, as for am I ready? Am I really ready to start writing? Not so much. So percentage complete, I'm 100% complete. On Act 1 scenes, I'm about 80% complete. On Act 2A scenes, I am, Act 2B is probably about 40%, and Act 3 is like 5%, right? So I do have some work to go, but for NaNoWriMo, all I have to do is write 50,000 words, right? And so when I look at, I have 12 scenes per act. That gets me to 48 scenes. I write about 2,000 words per scene. That's about 96,000 words. So that means, really, if I can write Act 1 and Act 2A, that should get me very close to my 50,000 words. So for my plotting process, I am focused on making sure that I have Act 1 and Act 2A scenes down packed. Completely understand it, completely understand the flow, completely understand how they fit with the overall story. And if I don't get a chance to work out Act 2B and Act 3 scenes, especially Act 3 scenes, it's okay because I can get through NaNoWriMo, have half the book written, and really feel accomplished. And so and then if I need to take the month of December to finish writing the rest of the book, I can absolutely do that, and it's still a win-win for me because that would be a very, very record speed for me in writing a first draft. Yes. So that's where I stand with Preptober, y'all. Feel really excited about starting book 4 in the Hero in Paradise series, The Unexpected Hero. I will keep giving you guys updates as I finish off Preptober, and then during the month of November, I'll absolutely be giving NaNoWriMo updates so that you guys can see how I'm progressing towards meeting that 50,000 goal. And if you're a writer out there, I highly encourage you to go on out there and sign up for NaNoWriMo. Take the plunge, buy your shirt, get in there and knock out 50,000 words. I promise you, you won't regret it. Now, if you want to continue to keep up with me and all the ups and downs that I go through as I try to write and publish new books, click the subscribe button, then don't forget to click that little silver bell so you won't miss when I'm doing a video, and I